Hi everyone, meteorologist Rusty Dawkins looking at the 2024-25 snowfall forecast. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through kind of what happens normally, month by month too. So it's not going to be all at once. I'll show you what happens in October, November, December, January, February, March, April, and then a total on average, and then the my forecast, what I think is going to happen. So stay tuned for the very end of this to see what my forecast is, and like and subscribe if you can. That would be completely helpful, totally helpful, and I would love that very much. And that way when snowfall and blizzards and winter storm warnings and everything else starts to happen, you'll know before anybody else, because I'll be posting about it all winter long. So just like severe weather, I'm going to be doing the same thing for snowfall, especially those winter storm warnings and blizzard warnings, things like that. So let's get to it. I'm going to go through this one step at a time. This is the October, November time frame. So not just October, but October and November, because those are kind of two smaller months. So I just combined them. And besides, when I'm releasing this, it is already halfway through October. So here we go. You can see that we've got this area right here, kind of a smaller swath, 1 to 2 inches, but most of south central and eastern Nebraska, on average, not a lot. I mean, it's October and November are not snowy months by any stretch. And then right down the middle, southwest to northeast, that's where you see the 4 to 6. Now 2 to 4, 4 to 6, that's usually about right. But those early season storms tend to hit western Nebraska the hardest. So 6 to 8, 8 to 10, maybe 12 inches of snow for the northwestern quarter of the state. I think generally 2 to 4, maybe 2 to 6 inches for most of the state. But sometimes those snowstorms, and on average, can really impact parts of western Nebraska. So that's October through November. Now, December, you start to see more snow. Now, you're going to notice that this area down here usually sees just a little bit less. It's just a little bit warmer, and that's usually your rain, snow mix, sometimes ice, that happens. But a good swath of 4 to 6 inches through December tends to happen along and south of Interstate 80. And then the further north you go, the colder it gets, thus higher snowfall amounts. And again, this area in northwestern Nebraska just seems to get hit more often than anybody else on average. So 4 to 6, 6 to 8 seems about right for the month of December on average, and then 2 to 4 inches versus 8 to 12 inches. So the corners of the state vary depending on the month, that's for sure. Now, January is an interesting month because it kind of flip-flops. Notice the western half of the state sees less and the eastern half of the state sees more. So the snowiest month on average for central and eastern Nebraska is usually January. So you're looking at 6 to 8 inches and a little bit less. It's just kind of the colder air pushes down and creates more snow for eastern Nebraska, and then your 4 to 6 inches, a little less, not a lot, but less than eastern Nebraska. So 4, 6, 6 to 8, kind of flip-flop there. That one surprised me just a little bit when I was researching all of this, but we get kind of back to it where everybody sees about the same amount of snow in February. Now, January and February, one or the other is usually your snowy month. Sometimes February is, sometimes January is, sometimes March is. I mean, it's happened too, but January and February are usually one of the snowier months out of the whole entire season, snowfall season. But for here, on the edges, this is when northeast and southwest Nebraska, even southeast Nebraska a little bit, on the corners, you're looking at 4 to 6, just a little bit less. It's this swath right here. It's usually those storms that start up here and just kind of swoop down like that. This is what February is known for. So you get your heavier amounts, 6 to 8 inches on average, and usually that could just take one snowfall. But on average, you'll see a 2-incher, then a 3-incher, then another 2-incher, then all of a sudden, boom, you're 6 to 8 inches of snow. This area up here, just a little bit less. Same with southwestern and south central, the southern portion of the Panhandle, and then in the very southeastern fringe. But most of the state of Nebraska, on average, in February, does see anywhere from 6 to 8 inches of snow. March, now we're starting to mix in that rain again. with some of these storms. So that's where most of Nebraska, central and eastern Nebraska, about 2 to 4 inches. Now this, again, this can easily explode, and you could see 6 to 8 inches of snow or 10 inches of snow over the course of March. That has happened before. But on average, you're looking at more rainfall starting to come into the forecast versus the snow. So the snowfall potential gets smaller, and then the further north and west you go, the higher it gets, 4 to 6 and 6 to 8. That's still not a whole lot considering you're talking about the entire month of March for snowfall. So 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, and then April that's a weird month. It's a transition month. You can have thunderstorms, you can have blizzards, sometimes in the same time, but it's usually a little bit colder up here. So that's where you get your 4 to 6. Lincoln, Grand Island, Hastings, Tri-Cities, Omaha usually doesn't see a whole lot of snow in April. It can happen, but 1 to 2 inches on average is about what April is what you see in April. Then a swath right down the middle from southwest to northeast. That's your 2 to 4, and then of course your higher amounts up here. So there you go. Now total, on average, again on average, you're gonna make sense. You're going to see your higher totals up here from Scottsbluff to Valentine, Panhandle, 40, 50 inches, sometimes more. I mean, I've seen a foot of snowfall in one day in Shattered. So that's 24 inches right there in one day. But on average, 40 to 50 inches. Then that swath right down the middle, that's where your 30 to 40 inches falls from the southern Panhandle, North Platte, Broken Bow, Norfolk, Sioux City, O'Neill. That Fremont is a little further south. So you're looking at this area right here, 30 to 40 inches. Now 20 to 30, Omaha, Lincoln, the Tri-Cities, McCook, that's where you see 20 to 30 inches of snow on average. And then a little bit further south where you kind of notice that, where it's lesser amounts each and every month, that's your 10 to 20 inches right down here in extreme southeastern parts of Nebraska. So 20 to 40 does it for just about the entire state, 20 to 40 inches, which is a kind of a big, a big swath of difference. I mean, that's from 2 feet to almost 4 feet. I mean, that's a huge difference. But the higher amounts the further north you go, the lower amounts the further south you go, and then of course your 40 to 50 inches up here in the Panhandle. So how about me? What's my forecast? I think it's going to be just a little bit snowier than average. I think we're going to see a couple of storms that dump a little bit more, and we need the moisture, so I'm thinking that's probably okay with some. But I'm just going to go with right around or just above average for central and eastern Nebraska. I think this squishes a little bit. I think a lot more, 40 to 50 inches. This is going to be a bigger area. And then 30 to 40 inches tries to push down into south central and southeast Nebraska, but I think the way that the pattern probably will set up is a lot of them go through central Nebraska and either miss or bring in warm dry air for south central and eastern Nebraska. But overall 20 to 30 for the total year, 30 to 40 for central and northeastern and southwestern Nebraska for the total season. And then I think the higher amounts will be from the Panhandle into north central and northwest Nebraska. So that's your 2024-25 snowfall forecast. Again, it probably won't be exactly right, but I think overall it's kind of what I think is going to happen. So again, if you want to like and subscribe, that would be awesome. Whenever there are severe weather events, I will make sure you will know about them, especially either severe weather events or winter severe weather events. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you next storm.